what's the role that you think that an agency should play inside of a growing business? I'm interested to see from your perspective. I mean, I know I have my ideas, but from your perspective, like where does an agency, like the execution part, right? Where does that fit? And is there a certain right timing, or let's chat about that.
Yeah. So if you asked me that question 2 years ago before the pandemic, I would say that a marketing agent is supposed to come in when a business is already growing and successful and has a pretty good idea of what they want to do and just help them kind of scale the success they already have. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not because I don't think that startups and small businesses could have any use for us, but because before the pandemic, it was really hard to make them understand that they needed us. So we kind of just focused on businesses that were already established because they had a pretty good notion of what we could offer them. But since the pandemic started and everyone had to suddenly move into digital and had to learn how to deal with that world and suddenly had to compete with everyone in the planet at once, it became pretty evident to them that they needed extra hands and that they needed someone who had a good notion of the digital world to guide them through everything, to help them put their passion into life. So nowadays, what I would say is that a digital marketing agent's role is to be kind of the Google translator of businesses. What we help do is help translate someone's passion, product, and culture into something that will resonate with whoever they want to connect with. And that's what I tell people that I do. I just translate things for people. I get my knowledge and I get your passion. I put it together, and then we find a way to connect with whoever you're trying to connect.
I love that. Yeah, and that makes so much sense, especially from my side where I'm sitting in, setting strategy and systems. From the systems side, I mean, I know in talking to you and your team that you guys do have a strategic mind, right? Like, it's not that you guys don't think strategically. It's just that's not one of your offerings primarily, right? So that's really cool because when they if a company does have a strategist or they have an internal marketing director that is trying to roll out the marketing campaigns around the vision of the owner or the CEO, they need some help to, like you said, translate what it is that they're trying to accomplish with their audience to the technical how to execution part. So, it's very critical because you can sit in the boardroom or, in your office all day long and talk about strategy. But how it actually gets executed is what you're going to be looking at when you're trying to optimize. So I'm curious.
Exactly.
So if of all the companies you guys have worked with, um, where would you say, like, is there a pinpoint time where it's the best time for a company to bring you in on the execution side? I mean, there's so many ways to slice how a company is set up
Yeah.
and their path to growth and their team size and all of that. I'm curious if there's a time that they should be thinking about sooner or later, or what do you think?
Yeah. I think the first thing they should focus on is, of course, the strategy. So bringing in someone like you who can do all the thinking, understand what they are trying to achieve and how would be a good way to achieve it. And then once they have that locked in, and some companies will be able to achieve that on week one because they just have a really good notion of who they want to be and what they want to do. But some companies, it will take a year. They'll have to do a lot of product research and customer research. So instead of like a time or moment, I would say it's when you know your strategy, when you know who you are and what you want to bring into the planet, then I would say bring in an agent to help you get those ideas out of the paper and tell you how, like you said, technically how to implement that into like an email marketing campaign, digital, paid, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
the channel that you're going to use. I think that's the best moment when you know who you want to be. So I would say the first focus should be getting a really good ally on your side, a really good
Yeah.
strategist consultant that will help you consolidate, that passion into a really nice study package that you can sell. Then once you have that figured out, bring in an agent who can help you get those package out of the door and into people's house.
Most definitely, and you and I've talked a lot about Google Ads and paid media, and that's what comes to mind when you're talking about this, because I think if I've been brought into companies so many times where they're looking at the tactic, right, and they're saying my Google ad campaign is not running it well. We're wasting money, and it's true, right? Or Facebook ads or whatever it may be, just kind of singling out the paid media side of it, and it's because they well, a lot of times it's because they haven't thought through their strategy, deploying their business model into their go to marketing all the campaigns. Um, but execution is such a big part of it that I think that they a lot of times don't know how to execute on a Google ad campaign. So let's say they had this strategy together, but they're trying to do it internally to save money. Well, in fact, they're losing a lot of money, right? I mean, I've seen companies lose tens of thousands of dollars over the short periods of time running Google Ads and not getting very much traction. And I know that's something we talked about. You guys do really well, and looking at that objectively, all the data and everything. You have to have someone that does that every day, to sit in front of that account and look at it. Otherwise, it's going to be a small leaky drip, off the faucet of money, or it's going to be a completely, wide open tap. Either way, you're going to be losing money. So I couldn't agree more. I think, you know, once you kind of have your thoughts together on how you're actually going to deploy your product or service in front of your audience, I think that's when you need to start talking to someone to execute well.